So if I wanted to go that route, I want to get a microfinance bank license in Nigeria as an entrepreneur, what processes do I have to follow?
Firstly, I would advise that you seek a consultant that knows the Central Bank of Nigeria very well and can work with them. It's not as easy. If you want to do it all by yourself, sincerely, it might be an uphill task.
Sunday Olorunsheyi cracked the wealth code, and now he's handing young Africans the keys.
Firstly, you need the minimum capital requirement depending on the tier of bank. You can have up to 50% ownership of the bank as an owner. Of course, you need a business plan to demonstrate how you intend to manage the bank to profitability. The fact that you are the owner of the bank does not mean you will be in control of what goes on. And you don't even get licensing straight off. You get first what we call approval in principle. Now, with the approval in principle, they will give you a long list of things you must do before you get a final license. Once you meet all of those requirements within 3 to 6 months, after your approval in principle, then you get your final license. Now, getting your final license is just the beginning of the journey because it's an...
I don't know anything about Pertinence. How did it all start? Pertinence Group.
All right. Started precisely 2011, was incorporated in 2012. Interestingly, before real estate in Pertinence was transport business.
Why did you leave the transport business for real estate?
All right. Pertinence was started by two people, a friend of mine, Wisdom Ezekiel, and myself. We both attended an entrepreneurship development program.
Did you know yourselves before then?
Yeah. We both worked with a capital market operator many years ago. That company no longer exists now. You were fund managers.
Okay.
So we assisted people in buying stocks, managing their portfolios, and like that. So that was where we met, right? So we both left the company at about the same time. Maybe I left about 3 months or so ahead of him. And we both attended our program. And part of what you had to do to graduate from that program was writing a business plan. So we had 2 business plans we both worked together on. One was on starting more like a similar entrepreneurship academy, like the program we attended, but in a small scale. And the second was focused on transport business. So a lot of research went into transport business, and we told ourselves, we wanted to do it differently from the conventional way people did it and like that. So when we're done with that, the next thing was to get an investor who is going to buy the first bus or who is going to give us the first bus. It was an issue.
So what was the model like?
Okay, the model was simple. We said we're going to hire drivers. But before the drivers ever hit the road, they're going to be trained. It's more like you want to put a proper structure in place to manage. Not like even though we're going to be buying those yellow buses like you have in Lagos, our core area was to ensure that the drivers are not like the drivers out there. So can you imagine getting into that kind of yellow bus and you are being served like you are in a cross country?
So more or less a yellow bus with a difference.
With a difference, trying to change the narrative of what you see in the everyday Lagos, so that people will be looking out for your own yellow bus to join. Can you imagine joining a yellow bus and the driver is serving you water? We had a lot of those things. Newspaper will be there, and like that. You might not have the AC that you wanted. Those buses didn't have AC, but we're willing to start there. And knowing that when this thing scales, we can afford to buy bigger buses and like that.
And all that.
So we needed an investor to support us. It was a bit of a struggle, but eventually we got one of my uncles then that I can't forget, give us 1 million naira to buy the first bus. And that was how we started. We got the first bus and it was looking good. We were following the template, even though tough, because what it required to train, to do all of this thing wasn't easy. At about that time also, I met chairman of a particular local government. They were preparing for elections. He wanted us to help them package the branding. So he wanted to buy buses from Lagos then to that state. They reached out to me. I supported. They bought 4 buses. They sent money. We bought 4 buses, branded it, and did everything. And they sent to that state. So after the election, I reached out to him. I said, those buses we bought for you, I hope you can send them to Lagos so we can use for transport. He said, why not? then you can have it. So from one, we now had five buses, but it was really, really tough. You know, in life, when you're doing business, human being, they are the most important asset in your business, right? But they can be the biggest headache. Everything that we structured, managing the people was a problem for us. It's more like the cancer that has eaten the culture we wanted to build was way more than whatever we're trying to ingest. And because we're just starting, the investors weren't patient. They wanted money at all costs. So we just had to reach out to them and say, see, we're going to sell these buses and close it. And they agreed with us. We sold the buses and we closed the business then. But as at then, Pertinence um, just got incorporated because it was from that transport business that we got money to incorporate Pertinence. But business as real estate did not start actively at that incorporation. It was after we learned from Dr. Lumide Emmanuel how to do real estate. Then we went out to talk to someone. They gave us land and we started selling. And that was how Pertinence started at the foundation. So as when Pertinence was starting, we were even in debt.
Wow.
Yeah, because we couldn't pay back. We needed money to pay back.
So it was from there you met Dr. Olumide and
Yeah.
and then things you dive into real estate.
Real estate,
Right.
exactly.
So can you then tell us how did this whole then what's the current state of Pertinence at the moment and how did you get from that point to here?
Again, takes us back to the two things I talked about. When Pertinence was going to start, there was a big picture. Now there's a departure from we are doing transport business. We've been able to craft a clear vision as to where we were going to. So that made it easy for us. So with that clear vision, there was a blueprint that we followed year upon year until we arrived here. Remember I said a global institution in enterprise development and people empowerment. So we knew from day one that we're going to do business in different sectors of the economy. And at the end of the day, it's about empowering people. So from just real estate, we've moved. Real estate is still running, but we are playing in other sectors. We're in fintech today. We're in banking. We're in hospitality. Different sector. We've been able to build at least that small conglomerate that we can be proud of.
So yeah, I was gonna get there actually. So today, what does Pertinence do across the value chain?
You can group it into three: real estate, technology, investment. Under real estate, we have at least three companies. The Pertinence that Pertinence Group, that's now Pertinence PLC, right? That does primarily real estate from the point of landed property, site and services, and building properties to sell. So you build and you sell immediately.
Okay.
We have Realverse that is more like a mortgage firm. The difference between Pertinence and Realverse is that when you come to Realverse, you're able to buy property that you spread the payment for as much as 7 years. That's not common in Nigeria. I know it's common in the UK, in the US, and Canada. You even have up to 20, 25, 30 years, but not in Nigeria. For a private sector driven company to allow people pay for properties over a period of 7 years. That's what Realverse has done. It's driven by technology. So, and we have customers from all over the world because when you go to realverse.ng, it's easy for you to start and complete transactions without seeing anybody, even to the point where your homes will be ready. You won't even see anybody. All you need is that you come for your keys or you tell us to send your keys over. From that point, even if you are not in the country, if you want it tenanted and you want to start making money from that apartment you've bought, we can do it for you. That's still under the real estate. We also have Homeward. Homeward Spaces is the hospitality arm of Pertinence Group. And there we have short-let apartments across different parts of Lagos. And we also have hotels. We completed the first hotel just this month. And the second one is at about 85% completion. So all of these, you can categorize them under real estate, right? We have technology too. And when we talk of technology, we have like 2 or 3 companies there too. We have Data Force. What Data Force does is basically software development. So all of our businesses today, they are driven by technology. and we did not have to hire people from outside. So our technologies, they are being managed in-house because we have a technology firm that builds this software, manage them, ensure that they are secured from time to time. We have JetSeed. JetSeed is a fintech company that helps people save and invest money through the fintech platform that we have developed. And when we talk of investment, we can put our banking. We have a bank, so we can put that under more like an investment company. Even though the goal is to build a bank to become a foremost technology-driven bank. So somehow our bank is still going to fall somewhere between fintech and the core investment and banking. But that's where we are right now. There are a few other companies that we run, but those are the prominent ones in the Pertinence Group conglomerate.
If you don't mind, how did you get the license? Was it political? Was it easy? Was it great? Because this is Nigeria.
Oh my God. I know part of the challenges entrepreneurs face in Nigeria is when it's difficult for you to get clearly what you need to do to obtain things from the government. It's possible that officially there are things that are listed, but unofficially there are things you might also need to battle with. So you must understand the system, and in most cases you might have to be patient with the system. I don't know how easy some other people got their banking license. Ours took us 4 years. Yeah, 4 good years. You have to be resilient to stand 4 years of waiting to get a banking license. It took a lot of resilience, but we never gave up. We stood through with the process and did everything legitimately until we got the license. So we went through all the rudiment, moving from one table to another, on and on. It wasn't easy, but it's possible. I know for some people it might not take that long because, like I said, there are official and unofficial. Maybe because we went the official way, it took that long. But I can say today that it's worth it because we did, for that period, we're taking time to understand the industry, understand the market, understand the regulators, and that better prepared us for what we're going into as a bank.
So if I wanted to go that route, I want to get a license today, a microfinance bank license in Nigeria as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What processes do I have to follow?
Firstly, I would advise that you seek a consultant that knows the Central Bank of Nigeria very well and can work with them. If you go online, of course, the items are clear, the things you need to provide and like that, but it's not as easy as the way it's been put online. Like if you want to register a microfinance, you want to get a microfinance bank license, you need to do this, you need to do that. No, you need a consultant, preferably someone that has been working closely with the Central Bank of Nigeria so they can guide you. Things that would have taken you 6 months, maybe in even 6 weeks, they can get it done for you. They know the people in there, they can relate with them better, whatever they can do to ensure that your file keeps moving, they assist you with that. If you want to do it all by yourself, sincerely, yeah, it might be an uphill task. I'm not saying it's impossible. We did it. It was tough, but I would not advise that you go that long.
You didn't get a consultant, you did it by yourself.
Yeah, I would say we did it by ourselves.
What were the processes you took for someone out there who aims to do that as well?
Okay, basically, we got a list of the basic the requirements from the central bank. Firstly, you need a minimum capital requirement depending on the tier of bank. And even if you want to go for a lower tier, if your location, if they say your location cannot accommodate that lower tier, you don't have a choice. You must move to the next tier, which will require higher capital. Like most banks in Lagos now, you require higher capital, even as a microfinance bank. Yeah, because the location, they see it as urban. But if you are going to a rural environment, the capital requirement might be lower. So you need that. And you can't be a sole director saying you want to own a bank. You know, it's an highly regulated industry. There's a minimum number of directors you should have. And you can't have more than a certain percentage ownership of the bank. I think 49.5 thereabout. You can't have up to 50% as an owner. So even if other people are coming to join you, no single person can own up to 50% of the bank. So you must understand this rudiment. Of course, you need a business plan. They want you to write a business plan to demonstrate how you intend to manage the bank to profitability. Also, the people you're going to hire, they want to know them. They want to be sure that these are people that have worked in the banking industry and they will be the right fit to run the bank. Of course, you have minimal influence on the bank. The fact that you are the owner of the bank does not mean you will be in control of what goes on. So they are able to separate the board of the bank from the management of the bank. So there are functions for the board members, there are functions for the management team. The board should not intermeddle in the management affairs. The management has a responsibility to run the day-to-day activities and report to the board. Of course, they will make you aware of the number of compliances, the bodies you should register with, like the Nigerian Association of Microfinance Bank, the NDIC, there are a number of them, the Credit Bureau, all of this registration. Yeah, you need to do them and get ready. And you don't even get licensing straight off. You get first what we call approval in principle. Now, with the approval in principle, they will also give you a long list of things you must do before you get a final license. And I think it will give you not more than 3 to 6 months to meet all of those requirements. Part of it is they want to know the software that you will use to run the bank, and they want to ensure that the software is safe and secured so that tomorrow you won't tell stories about people's money. So once you meet all of those requirements within 3 to 6 months, after your approval in principle, then you get your final license. Now, getting your final license is just the beginning of the journey because it's an highly regulated sector or industry. There are many reports that you must submit. In fact, in the process, there are all your policies that you will use to run the bank. You must provide it. Different policy from your IT, from your to human resource to all the policies, all of this. So the documentation can be very, very, very strenuous. But banking is worth it at the end of the day.
Is the microfinance bank under Pertinence Group?
The same ownership, but right now it's not a member of Pertinence Group. We have not added it as a member, but it's owned by the same people. But officially, the MFB has not been added. When you incorporate a company, then you apply to add the company as a member of the group because the group has been in existence before the banking license came. So right now we have not added, but the bank is owned by the same people.
Now let's talk about some numbers. So as of today, how much is Pertinence worth right now, and what's your reach like at the moment as well?
Okay, when you talk about the worth of the organization, there are different ways to value it. I might not be able to say specifically,
Sure.
This is its worth. That's part of the challenge we have in Africa most times because data, they are not readily available. You can't plug into most of this data to be able to populate information. That being said, our value goes beyond just the material. I'll start firstly from the area of reputation that we have built over the years. That is the biggest
brand.
for us. The brand equity is huge. Does that mean every customer we have dealt with that they are all happy with us? That's not true. We have a few of them, but we always want to go above and beyond to see how we can solve their problems. But I tell you that more people trust, believe, and love to do business with Pertinence every year, simply because they've seen a track record of integrity, they've seen a track record of credibility in the business. And all the difficult times we've been through, we have never left our customers. We will ensure that we will rather feel the pain, go through the burnt, than allow our customers go through it. So that alone for us is the biggest equity that we have as a business. Of course, no doubt our business is valued in the billions. There are properties we own solely today that only one property, the value is over 10 billion. So that's just one of many. Some of these might not be cash in the bank, but they've been built over the years. Today we have over 70 estates. Yeah, over 70 estates. And in all of these locations, even though we sold land and houses, we always have a certain percentage of the land that we have reserved, for the organization. That's part of how you ensure that you stay relevant in those estates. You don't buy and just sell everything to people. You don't build and sell everything. You should reserve some units for yourself. And this is across over 70 locations. So we might not have the raw data to say this is the value of the organization. We are not rich. We are still struggling, We are still struggling. The money in the bank might not be very, very fat, but when it comes to building sustainable things that can last, we want to continue to build that. Another thing we want to brag about is the quality of people we have in our team. Yeah, we've been able to build solid systems such that the business is not built around myself or Wisdom Ezekiel. It runs on its own on autopilot, and that has freed us to be able to move around. In the last 3 weeks now, I've been in 4 countries, right? Do all in Europe, from what's it called, Netherlands. Stayed there for like a few days. Moved to Switzerland and moved to Spain. Then here in the UK, I'll be back in Nigeria in some 2-3 days, and another 4 days I'll be in Canada. I have an event in Canada 3 days after that day of the event. I'm going to Dubai. Like that. Once I'm back, I'm going to the US again. Imagine if we have not built a solid system around the business, and you have to go all of these places, whether for business meetings, to close deals, to raise funds for the business. The people back at home will just mess everything up. So I want to celebrate all our employees, and that has been from one generation to another. We have generations of we're having a chat, before this podcast, and I was saying, see, we have so many of them that have jackpot. Like they say.
I'm coming there.
They're in Canada, they're in US, they're in the UK, and like that. But those back home are doing excellently well. There is no time we have experienced any gap in that organization. Yeah, because there's this culture of continuously building people. So even if somebody leaves, we have 2-3 people on the queue that can do the same thing. And in some cases, they've even done better. So we always celebrate our employees. We love them. We believe in them. In fact, we have a communal, culture, a clan culture, in Pertinence, more like a family thing. It's only in extreme cases that we sack people. It must be very extreme. In fact, there are cases, people that we should have let go will now be looking, okay, where can we fix this person? Nobody is totally useless. So if you are not doing well in admin, can we take you to sales? Okay, if sales is not doing too well, okay, can we move you to operations? Somehow, it will be in an extreme case. Maybe you must have done something very grievous.
Has that worked for you or against you?
I would say it has worked for, if you allow me put a percentage, I'll say 70% for us and 30% against. And of course, we are trying to balance it. We've had cases where people have taken us for granted because of that clan culture and like that. But because of the nature of the owners of the business, we love serenity, we love peaceful environment, we love environments where our employees will be with us. You can't tell who the boss is. And that's the kind of culture. A few years ago, we traveled to Dubai and we took about 70 of our employees on that trip, and I decided to also fund a trip for my parents and my father-in-law, so they were all on that trip with us and a few other people. And one of the major take-home for my father-in-law was I couldn't tell who the boss was. Everybody just chilling out, being the same, because of them, we even flew economy that year. And one of my senior friends said, you are even in the same class with them when you were flying. I felt it wasn't a big deal, We just wanted to be together in the plane because most of them were traveling for the first time at that point. So we wanted to be with them and like that. So for us, we love that kind of environment. We value our peace of mind more than money. So because for us, it's firstly about valuing people's life and feeling what they feel and wanting to be there for them.
So you've moved from practically nothing. You started with the transportation business, failed, and of course dusted yourself off, yourself and your partner, then moved into real estate. Correct. And today you've built a multi-billion organization. Where do you see Pertinence in the next 5-10 years?
Maybe I'll say the next 100 years. Yeah, because per time, 5, 10 years now is now looking like 3 months to us. That's the truth. Yeah, because before you know it, the 5 years is here. And you are like, so planning 5, 10 years, the rate at which the world is changing is so fast. It's rapid that 5, 10 years used to be a big deal. But right now, any plan that is not thinking minimum 30 years, sincerely, might just be failure on arrival, because before you know it, what you thought is working today, you wake up tomorrow, is no longer working. And you are now confused. So what? Because you are desperate to achieve something in 5, 10 years. So for us, what we see, it's an environment where we can proudly say not less, not that's in 5, 10 years. Just to answer your question, we'll be able to point to not less than 100 other companies that has come out of the Pertinence Group that are equally doing well. Right now, we should have about 40 of them, and we are proud. And how did we come up with this data of 40? Now, my business partner clocked 40 about 3 years ago, 2, 3 years ago, they're about, yeah. And I wanted us to surprise him. So I reached out to the guy heading our finance. I said, you have paid everybody at one point or the other. So you know the people that has left. Please get me the data of everyone that has left Pertinence but went to start their own businesses and they are doing well. Get me their list. And these were guys that when they left, we supported them. Either we invested in their business. Some of them were even part owners.
Really?
We have a number of them that we are even either investors or we even own equity in their businesses. And by the time he brought, we had about 33. Yeah, that was 2, 3 years ago. And I told him, form a WhatsApp group. I want us together to work and surprise Wise Man for his 40th birthday. So I called my business partner, Wise Man. And we came together. Everyone was glad to put down some good amount of money just for us to surprise him with some amazing gifts on the day of his birthday. And every one of them came around. It was an homecoming for them, you know. Yeah, and it was huge when we celebrated him at 40. So that's to let you know that right now some of them have left again. We're always happy when they're leaving. We support them. We invest in them. Uh, the last set that left, we put in not less than 100 million into what they were doing. So there are people that have worked for 30 years in organizations and they didn't even get 50 million after 30 years. Some of these guys have not served for more than 5 years, you know. So, okay, maybe the last one served 10 years, and we're glad. Most of the time, the things they had when they were living, their cars, official cars, gadgets, everything, we live. Not every organization does that, but we are proud to do it, and we are happy to see them succeed.
So my first question for you is, why did you chapa? Why did you leave Nigeria when you left?
Oh my God.
What was your motive? What were you trying to achieve? And yeah, what are your thoughts about it?
Okay, in the context of jackpot, people like us can never jackpot. In the context of jackpot, yeah,
Yeah.
people like us can never jackpot. It only takes a dull mind to have built as much as we have built back in Nigeria to say, so where are you living to? What are you going to? So it's not economic at all. It's just, it was strategic. You see, the first time I took my dad abroad, we traveled together, and when we landed in Nigeria, on our way back home from the airport, you know, he made a statement. He said, see, I used to think all these young people living in this country, what are they looking for? Where are they going to? He said, now I understand better. That was the first. The second, he said something humorously. He said, may you not live in this world and all your life, you never left Nigeria till you died. That when you get to heaven, you tell yourself that I don't suffer. I've suffered. So you mean
When you see what is possible, what you could have seen, what you could have experienced, you know, and you stayed in one place
while alive and you never did. So for people like us, traveling was strategic. Number one, it was an opportunity to learn, to see the world from a different perspective. Being in Nigeria and doing business in Nigeria showed me a perspective. But moving abroad and starting businesses, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm an opportunity tourist. Everywhere I get to, I'm looking for the next opportunity to start a business. So I've started businesses abroad. At least I have not less than 4 businesses out of Nigeria, right? And I tell you, I saw a new perspective to how businesses are being run. Secondly, I've been able to participate in governance, not actively, but relating to people in power. I did that a little in Nigeria, and I've done a lot of it outside of Nigeria, especially in Canada. And I can see a world of difference. I haven't had the privilege of bringing one top-ranking politician or government official from Canada to Nigeria. That was 2020. The mayor of the city of Brampton. I think you were at that event then, and he was with us for about 5 days there, about 4 or 5 days in Nigeria. And I could tell you how easy it was to assess and to work with him. One of the businesses I have outside the country, which we co-run. My wife is the CEO of that business, anyways. Is a store, a grocery store that sells African and Caribbean products. We have had opportunity to host the mayor of the city of Mississauga. Mississauga is one of the largest city in Canada. It's the city hosting the busiest airport in the whole of Canada. That's the Pearson International Airport. It's in Mississauga, right? And hosting the mayor of that city in your small business, I call it small, right? She came around and we had interaction. I invited a few friends to be there at the opening of the store. Today she's the leader of the ruling party in Canada, but Ontario, we have provinces in Canada. She is now the leader of the province of Ontario. So like a potential premier. So if the Liberal Party wins an election in Ontario today, she becomes, the premier of the province of Ontario. So the same woman now holds that position. So for me, perspective was another thing. Apart from education, seeing things, I was able to relate with that. Thirdly, I would say the kind of exposure that has also given to me. The way I relate to people now is different. There's what we call Jury's window. It helps you see things not only from your own perspective, but from other people's perspective. In Nigeria today, I see how much we don't show that we value humanity. We don't show that we value human life. We can be overly aggressive at some point, right? But in this other part of the world, you see how that they put human life as a priority. They can go the extra mile to solve one person's problem, like they are solving the entire community problems. That we don't have back home. But most importantly, also, I made that move because of global mobility. And I don't shy away from it. I tell people it was a strategic move. One of the things we learned from our mentor, Dr. Olumide Emmanuel, and I've seen in many other leaders that I follow from Africa, is that traveling out of the country is not just for luxury. There's no education that is better than it. The adventure changes your world entirely. But everybody keeps complaining about how we are treated when we have our green passport. In my own case, I might not have experienced, I think the only time I experienced it was maybe my first trip to the United States, the very first time I went to the United States. I know I was taken for secondary inspection. I was in a room like somebody they wanted to deport, and I was there for not less than 1 hour. They'll go back and forth, ask me questions. But obviously, they saw how relaxed I was that particular year. My wife was there with me. We were just gisting in the room where they kept us. They will come again. So I believe they even took my phone. And I'm talking of over 10 years ago. They took my phone. I had nothing to hide. I was already in business, at least not doing badly as at that point. So I was in their spirit. I was just going for a visit. And for me, I didn't allow what happened to me affect me. For some people, they would have been very like, why are you treating me like shit because I'm coming to your country? I was so relaxed. But I did not like it, to be sincere, because I saw how other people just walked freely into the country, but we were held for over 1 hour. That was the only horrible experience I've had. Most other countries I've visited, of course, apart from the regular questioning, why are you coming here, blah, 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 there has not been anything serious. And when your mind is positive, even when the negatives are coming, the overly positive mind will push the negatives. But I've seen people's experiences, and I don't want to continue to experience that. So I told myself, I want a second passport. I'm not planning to be a politician or the president of Nigeria. It's not in my dream at all. I've always said it, that I would rather be that person that if someone else is the president of Nigeria, if he says something, people can come and ask me what my opinion is about what the president has said. And whatever I say is what people will value more. So I don't need to be the president to be in that kind of position. I just need to work on my life and be a better person and impact life enough. So for me, global citizenship. I wanted the second passport. I might not be able to change the color of my skin. At least I can change the color of my passport. So I'm proudly Nigerian, and I will always be, any day, anytime.